Hey, hey, we have a hot topic for this Thursday. Thoughts? I cannot wait to get into it and share with you all. I'm excited because I have a feeling that tonight's topic is relatable for all my ladies out there. So, as with every Thursday Thoughts, let's talk about it. First of all, start off by being thanks. I am so thankful for growing because every day is an opportunity to learn something different from the experiences that were really, really positive, and even from the experiences that didn't have the outcome that we wanted. There's still opportunity to learn and grow. So I'm very thankful for that today. And so let's get into the topic. Listen, today we are talking about the strong woman syndrome. That's right, strong woman syndrome. Because for so many years, we wore that badge. I'm a strong woman. I'm a strong woman. I'm a strong woman, right? We've worn that badge with such honor, but it's such a heavy weight, y'all. It's such a heavy weight. So I wrote my thoughts down. So if you see me look down, it's because I'm making sure I hit all the points I want to talk about today because I feel like, you know, a lot of us carry that strong woman title and the weight of what that encompasses. And it's just so, so heavy. How many of you can relate to, viewing yourself or I'm the strong one? Or even having people view you of as I'm the strong one. Hey Diva, hey BFF. Thanks for joining. So we're talking about the strong woman syndrome and what that means. Um, I know for me, strong woman syndrome means, doing it on my own, getting it done regardless. It means just you you have no backup system. You have no support. It's like it's all on you to get it done because if you don't get it done, it won't get done. And so here are some signs. And for anybody who can relate to the strong woman syndrome, I want you all to put a thumbs up in the comments if you can relate to experiencing the strong woman syndrome, right? So we're going to get into it. So let's understand what are some signs and symptoms of the strong woman syndrome, right? How about constantly feeling the need to be in control? Like you have to be in control. You feel like, you know what? If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. Denise says it's me, it's on you all the time. It's all you. All on you. Yeah, Denise, that's what it means. Some other signs and symptoms. Difficulty asking for help. That's how you know also you're suffering from the strong woman syndrome because it's so hard for you to ask for help. It's like you can have a full support system and never leverage them because you just don't want to burden them. You don't want to burden them because you feel like you've carried the weight so much on your own that it's almost an embarrassment. You've grown to look at this burden that you carry as it's an embarrassment if you have to reach out for help. So you have difficulty asking for help because you perceive it as being a sign of weakness. And some of your friends around you is probably like, oh, my friend, so and so, she's just so strong. We go to her for everything and she never needs us. But silently, that woman suffering from the strong woman syndrome, silently, she is suffering. She is suffering, y'all, silently. What about often feeling overwhelmed, but you still taking on more? You feeling overwhelmed, you feeling the water, the tides are rising, rising, and you're like barely keeping your nose out the water, and you feel like you're drowning. but you still taking on more. Somebody call you, can you go do this? Can you take this here? Can you help and do this? And you're steady like, yep, yep. Meanwhile, your cup that's supposed to remain full, you're supposed to make sure your cup is full, ladies. Your cup, yeah, you running on dust right now. Like you have not a drop in there. The strong woman syndrome. It's very, very dangerous, y'all. Very, very dangerous. Or what about neglecting personal needs for the sake of others' expectations? The strong woman syndrome. How many ladies have worked a job that you absolutely hated? You might have worked a job that you absolutely hated or didn't like, but you know what? You knew you was a single mom. For those single moms who can relate to what I'm talking about, at the end of the day, it fell on you. You had to provide for your family, and so you had to stick it out. You had to stick out because you were like, you know what? I got to make sure I could put food on the table. Or, you know, you're so tired. Like, let's say you've been working hard all week. You're so tired. But then maybe it's your kid who calls, like, well, can you babysit? Or maybe it's your girlfriend who says, hey, you want to run and catch a movie? But you're so tired, you're so exhausted. All you want to do is rest because you know you're stressed. Like you're headed up to here. You totally have zero capacity left for anything, but you do it anyway. You really don't want to go out, but your friend is like, "Hey, you want to go to club tonight? You want to go to dinner tonight, or whatever?" And you're like, "Okay," but the whole time you really don't want to be there because you're tired. You've not taken care of yourself. And when we say taking care of like your personal needs, how many times a day? When do you all have an opportunity to just unplug? Meaning you're not scrolling on social media, you're not watching TV, you're not listening to music, you're not reading a book, you're not answering the phone, you're not talking, you're not on your laptop, you're not working, but you're just sitting with yourself and you're breathing and you're literally trying not to think about anything for just 5 minutes. I mean, just try 5 minutes. I've tried this when I first started my journey of caring for myself and making myself a priority. I started this, and when I tell you, like the first minute felt like an hour, I was like, what? Like my brain could not wrap itself around doing nothing for 5 little old minutes. Okay? So, some signs and symptoms. Those are just a few, but in the comments, what are some signs and symptoms that you all may have experienced by being the strong one? What are some signs and symptoms? We're looking in the comments and see, what some of those are. And while you think about some signs and symptoms that you've experienced, we're going to move on to some of the pitfalls. Now, the pitfalls are when you continue to wear the weight of the strong woman. What will that do to you? Chronic stress and mental exhaustion. Chronic stress will make your hair fall out, y'all. It can make you lose weight. It can make you gain weight. Because on one hand, you can be the type of personality type that if you stress, you're not eating like you're supposed to. And so now you're losing weight. On the second hand, you can be the type of person that will comfort eat, right? Comfort eat and gain weight. So now Denise says it will make you sick. Yes, it will. Yes, it will make you sick. Get yourself, you get the high blood pressure. You get immune um illnesses because stress will wear you out. Everybody knows, stress gives us that fight or flight. But when you're in a constant state of stress, listen, you're putting yourself at risk and at danger. Also, some pitfalls of the strong woman syndrome is strained or non existent romantic relationships. Strained or non existent romantic relationships when you desire to have one, right? When you desire to have one. I met many of women who carry a successful title, but they're not happy. They're genuinely lonely. And when I talk to them and listen to them, they're the strong woman. But then when they meet a man, right, they're so strong that the man can't be the man. They're so strong and independent, they can't let the man be chivalrous and exhibit being able to treat you like a lady and hold the door for you, right? Because you quick to grab the door before he can, even pay for the meal. Some offering to pay for the meal. And don't get me wrong, it's okay, to do that, but allow the man to be able to care for you. But sometimes when you're the strong woman, you don't allow people to get close to you, or because you may feel like I'm being vulnerable and I can't trust whoever this person is to be vulnerable with them, to even allow them to help me in any capacity, right? Then there is a loss of personal identity. And when we talk about a loss of personal identity, it's meaning oftentimes you're just defining yourself by being the caretaker. That your world has revolved around either your children, your parents, your husband. And this is not to say that we should not care for our children and for those who have husbands, our husbands and our parents. But if that's your sole identity, you have lost yourself, because those children are going to grow up. And when they grow up, you're still you, but who are you? Who are you? Loss of identity, because you've been the strong woman, you've been the go to, you've been the matriarch for the family. So, who are you? And then there is a pervasive sense of loneliness and genuine lack of support. Meaning, again, because you're so strong, right? Goes back to who can you go to? Who can you turn to when you need support? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I would welcome someone to care for me. I enjoy when someone cares for me and they take something off my plate that I don't have to do. Not because I can't do it myself, but I appreciate the fact that somebody is being generous enough to offer to do something for me. I appreciate that. And let me see. And so Gwen says it's also work when people retire from careers. Absolutely. Oh, that's so good. Because so many times we get wrapped up in our careers, in that title, right? Oh, I'm the VP of this, or director of this, or manager of this, or the engineer, or architect, or lawyer. But when it's time to retire, because I saw this like in a Facebook group, which I'm so glad you brought this up, Gwen. There's a whole slew of women who are like, what do I do next? I don't know what to do with myself. I feel lost. I feel empty. That job was never you. Your job should never be you. You should prioritize yourself so much, love yourself so much, acknowledge yourself so much that even without a job, you have an identity. Without your family, you have an identity. You have an identity. And Gwen, you're so right. They don't know who they are. You'd be surprised at the number of women that I've spoken to who truly don't know who they are. They've never explored life or themselves. They've went down a path of going with the flow. Like, haphazardly, if you will, just going with the flow, going with the flow, never having a plan, just wherever they end up is where they end up. And then they wake up and they wonder why am I feeling uneasy? Why am I not happy? Why I just don't feel fulfilled? Why I just don't know what joy feels like? And joy and fulfillment doesn't mean you're going to be happy all the time, consistently every single day. But it means there is a level of satisfaction that you feel with yourself as a person and in your life that can't be shaken to the core when something bad happens or when something doesn't go your way. You still feel that sense of self of who I am. I'll get through this, right? Doesn't mean you're going to have days that you won't cry or you won't be sad, but you got to bounce back, a healthy bounce back, because you can acknowledge I, I'm not feeling my best right now, but I know every day I'll get better. As opposed to some strong women will go through something, they won't acknowledge what they're feeling, they'll suppress it or ignore it even. Like, I'm not getting ready to deal with that. Like, a broken heart, I'm not getting ready to deal with that. I'm just going to go get the next man and not heal completely from that, because some women just can't be by themselves. Even the strong one, some of them can't be by themselves. Okay, now here's a question. Have you ever felt penalized for showing vulnerability? So those of you who may be on now, who are live, or those who may watch this in replay, have you ever felt like if I'm vulnerable, I'm going to be penalized? Or somebody's going to look at me as though I'm less than if I'm vulnerable? Has that ever kept you from sharing pain with a loved one or with a friend or with a significant other because you felt like I just can't? Another question I have for you all to just kind of think about is, in what ways has the strong woman label impacted your personal relationship or your mental health? Has the strong woman label impacted your personal relationship or your mental health? I know for me, it gave me I had built up a whole sense of anxiety. I had gotten anxiety, and anxiety is really the fear that some unfavorable outcome is going to occur before anything ever happens. Nothing is necessarily present at this moment, but it was the fear. And I had gotten anxiety, just worried about a lot of things that were going on and not really being able to verbalize it and start talking through it. And I have to tell you, it had gotten so bad. I was seeing a therapist. I highly recommend, if anybody is going through extreme bouts of anxiety and you're not able to move through it, get yourself a therapist. But extreme, anxiety where I was on medication, thank God I learned tools and techniques to help me through that. And so I'm off the medication, been off the medication, and my therapist, she kicked me out of therapy. I said I was going to call her and harass her, but she kicked me out of therapy. But it is just so draining. I see Denise said it's mentally draining. Yes, yes. Denise says to think for so many people sometimes. Oh my gosh. Sometimes you feel like you have to have the answers for everybody. Everybody. Because if you don't have the answers, an answer won't appear. Have you ever heard that saying, it's kind of like when you tell your kids to clean the house and then they don't do it right. And you're like, well, if you want something done, you got to do it yourself. Sometimes as a strong woman, we take on so much of doing so much for other people that we create a crutch for other people And they then think, oh well, they just love doing this, so I'm going to keep coming to this person, um and just, no fault of their own, they're not really thinking they're using you or anything like that. But this is where boundaries come into place, because being a strong woman means, you're taking on a lot. But listen, too much is like kryptonite. Too much is like kryptonite. The next question I have for you all today is, has there ever been a moment when letting go of control actually led to a positive outcome? When you felt like, you know what, I'm just gonna let go of control and I'm gonna let God. Let go and let God is the saying. We're talking about today, you know, the strong woman syndrome, how to deal with it. Because it's not a badge of honor, because it's wearing us out. Most of us wouldn't want to be known as being like the strong one, having to do things on your own, come to the rescue for everybody. Because it's just freaking exhausting to be on that all the time, on 10 all the time, all the time, right? Or am I the only one who's feeling like that? So now let's get into what are some tools and some techniques for dealing with this strong woman syndrome. First thing, we have to learn to delegate. We have to learn to delegate. That means start with something small, y'all. It could be things at home, you know, gradually increase as your comfort grows, but relinquish the reins and let somebody else help you. Start assigning things to people so you don't feel like you have to do it on your own. I know some people who have the strong woman syndrome in the work environment. They're leaders, and they get into some micromanaging. They feel like they have to sit on every single meeting all the time for all their teams because they're afraid they're going to miss something. When in fact, trust your teams. When you're a clear leader, you're supportive, and you've explained expectations, and you've made, sure that your team has the skill set that they need, you can trust them to do their job. And so you don't have to be at every place all the time, because that's exhausting as well. And then when you do need to show up, guess what? You can come in with a fresh perspective because your brain hasn't been stretched in 50 million different directions. Gwen says, learn to say no. And Denise says, yes, when I stopped being a people pleaser, it was the best thing ever. Not to care what others think. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, before I get into some more tools and techniques about how to deal with the strong woman syndrome, I want to talk just a little bit about, where does the strong woman syndrome come from? Like, where does it come from? You know, a lot of times it comes from childhood environments and the family dynamics. Meaning, if you grow up and there wasn't a lot of support in the house, um, whether it is the absentee or inconsistency of a dad figure, it could be that, where it led to, you feeling like nobody has my back, or my dad didn't have my back. Or if you grew up in a home where you had to take care of your siblings, then maybe you feel like, I'm just exhausted because I'm always caring for somebody else, so who's going to care for me? Then there's lack of trust, because when you grow up in an environment where you don't trust that you've been cared for and or protected, it makes you feel like you can't trust others when you get older. Okay? And this lack of trust will propel us to depend solely on ourselves, reinforcing that strong woman practice. The other thing that can lead to us being strong women is if we experience betrayal or hurt. If you have loved someone and you've had your heart broken, and you totally didn't, you were blindsided, you didn't see nothing coming. Next thing you know, you felt like you've been run over by a Mack truck train, you've been hit. And that kind of hurt, if you don't know how to properly grieve for it, it can really fester emotional scars that will cause you not to trust other people. And so even if you engage in relationships, if you're still holding on to those emotional scars, guess what? That strong woman syndrome will pop up again. And it can make it difficult for you to really engage in a fruitful and positive and healthy relationship, right? You hear people say sometimes they pick the same wrong person, just a different face. So, comes from emotional scars. And then there are some societal and cultural expectations that can really just, if have you in a spot where you just feel like, it's just expected. I know in the Black community, it's just expected. Black women, we strong. We come to the rescue for everybody, honey. We put that cape open in the morning. We put that cape on in the morning, and I promise you, I don't even think some of us take it off at night. We go to sleep with the cape on, so because we know when we get up, we're gonna have to hit the ground running, right? That could be exhausting, exhausting. And then there's the stigma around vulnerability, and then the stigma around vulnerability is really wrapped up in what? That trust, because your trust has been broken. You're like, how can I be vulnerable and share how I feel? Or if you're in a society where people don't believe you're really hurt, don't believe, she's not bothered by that, or she can take it, they can take it, they're built for it. If you know, you know, right? If you know, you know. So those are, now, if we haven't touched on all the root causes, if you all can think of any root causes to the strong woman syndrome, put them in the comments. Let's share in the comments. And after, this Thursday Thoughts, share the video, you guys. Share the video. Hit like, share, comment. We want to spread the word. We want to spread the news about these topics, because Priority U is all about prioritizing our women out there, our women to see themselves as they want to be seen, not how they think other people should see them. Helping women identify who they are in their most authentic form, when you can take off the cape of being who everybody maybe expects you to be, and you can begin to discover who you're really meant to be. Because when you discover who you're really meant to be, man, you talk about happy. That's a happy place. A happy place. Because when you start discovering who you are, you start prioritizing yourself. And when you start prioritizing yourself, you start feeling better about yourself, because you're telling yourself unconsciously, you the ish, you that girl, I love you. And telling yourself you love yourself and being loved and loving on yourself is more important than receiving love from somebody else. Yeah, think about that one. Now let's get into some tools and techniques for dealing with this strong woman syndrome, right? We talked about learning to delegate, setting boundaries. Gwen said it, learn to say no. Denise said, stop being a people pleaser, but you have to clearly communicate your limits. And do this in advance, y'all. Don't wait till you've allowed people to develop unhealthy habits with you and then you try to break it. Because now you got to try to break an unhealthy habit that you helped create because you allowed it. So let's start setting boundaries. And let's say maybe you have allowed some unhealthy habits. It's still not too late for you to set that boundary. When you're tired and you're like, you know what, hey, it's time to put boundaries because I'm worth it. I'm worth securing my happiness. Set the boundaries. Okay? That's mean, again, clearly communicating your limits, learning that no is a complete sentence, and it's a blessing and a gift. Next, a self-care routine. Now, self-care routine is, from a holistic approach, y'all. Self-care, I'm not talking about just going to get a back massage, get your nails done, your eyebrows done. In my case, my upper lip, because my kids told me I had a little mustache growing, okay? And I had, like, I'm all off topic right now, y'all, but I have to tell you, I went and I had my eyebrows and my upper lip done with a little threading. Baby, listen. When I tell you it felt like my face was throbbing. Anywho, I digress. I'm gonna get back to the self-care routine. So when I talk about self-care, y'all, I'm talking about your body, your soul, your mental, your well-being. Meaning, are you exercising? Are you exercising? Are you, you know, um, eating for your health? Are you eating for your health? Are you eating to live? Now, don't get me wrong. I love some good fried chicken, but only every now and then, y'all. You have to watch, the fried foods. Are you getting your vegetables? Proper nutrition. Again, exercise. Exercise is a great way to relieve some of that stress from being the strong woman. And once you can start relieving some stress, you have greater clarity. You're able to really think clearer. And if you're able to think clearer, you're able to plan your life. You're able to determine what you really want in life. And you're able to show up how you really want to be. You're able to create a plan of investing in yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you don't prioritize you, nobody else will. Okay? So while we got those capes on, we need to be a strong woman for ourselves and learn when to take that cape off and how to really have compassion and love for ourselves and care for ourselves. Now, the other thing we need to do is seek support. So when you have yourself, got that cape on, I know you strong women out there doing things and conquering things, right? But listen, you've got to be able to seek support when it's time. When you feel like, you know what, I can't handle this on my own, make sure you seek out a coach, seek out a therapist, get help. There are people out there that's waiting to help you get to where you need to be. So some of y'all walking around with those Wonder Woman capes on and you need some help taking that cape off, click the link in my bio, set up a meeting. Let's talk, let's strategize on how you can get some relief after carrying that strong woman image around for so long. Okay. The next thing you can do, and then we're talking about right now tips on how do you recover from the strong woman syndrome. The last tip I have is mindfulness practices. Because when you adapt techniques to stay present and to reduce your stress, such as breathing exercises or mindfulness meditations, they have apps out there. If you don't do it on your own, they have the Breathe app. Um, and they have another app that I use. Let me see what it's called. I know it's Breathe, and it's another app that's really, really good that I use. And then also, they have some really good YouTube videos for meditation as well. So there's a whole slew that trying to see if I could meditation. If I get it, I'll post it out there what the other app is. I know Breathe is one, but definitely check that out. Take the time because you will be surprised how beneficial it is just to go through some breathing exercises, focusing on your breath, getting clarity. Sometimes when you feel your shoulders, you can feel tension in your shoulders and your neck. Just breathe and then do a couple shoulder shrugs to loosen out that stress that your body is holding. Okay? Now, let's talk about how true strength involves recognizing when it's time to step back and to prioritize your well-being. That's where your true strength lies. It doesn't lie in you self-sabotaging or self-sacrificing your well-being to care for everybody else. Because when you totally deplete yourself, who's going to be there to pick you up? Who's going to be there to care for you? So you have to care for you. You have to care for yourself. And again, I say you have to care for yourself, and why it's just so important is because how you treat yourself when you don't take care of yourself, that opens the door and creates the energy for people to match how you feel about yourself. So when you don't care for yourself and you don't care about your emotions and your emotions aren't important to you, guess what? Your emotions aren't going to be important to other people. Your feelings aren't going to be important to other people. And if you don't treat yourself well, nobody's going to treat you well either. Because it starts with you. Your validation of your worthiness, of your self acceptance, of caring for yourself, of living the life you've dreamed, and being the person you want to be. It all starts with you, and it's all within reach. So, um, if tonight's topic resonated with anybody, I want to encourage you to please take steps this week to adjust your approach to being that strong woman. So, whether it is you're going to set some boundaries this week that you previously haven't, you're going to start implementing, a workout regimen to really care for yourself. You're going to get help to give you the tools that you need so that you can discover who you are, get beyond that strong woman persona that you have, and help you become the woman that you're really meant to be. And remember that caring for yourself is just vitally important, y'all. I can't stress that enough. And I want you to know that you're not alone in this journey. I have been the strong woman. I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you're a single mom and you've got kids and you're working full time and you're going to school full time. You got all those things in the jar. Or, I know what it's like if you're going through a divorce, but you have to be strong. I know what it's like when you've had your heart broken, but you don't want to be bitter. You just want to be better. And you want to be in a good space so when you're blessed with the next relationship, you can receive it in a healthy way, right? So I want you all just to remember that, to share our conversation. If you have friends who are the strong ones, reach out to them, have some dialogue with them, make sure they're okay. Help them on their journey to figure out, what, if you take off that strong cape, who are you? And who do you really want to be? Right? Because nobody wants to be the strong one all the time. It's exhausting. With that said, I'd like to thank everybody for joining Thursday Thoughts. It's been an incredible pleasure to have you all on. As I stated, make sure you share this video, you like this video, and have a great, great, great day and take care of yourself. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Thanks for joining.